Let's head to the steering wheel. On the steering wheel, you have some arrows. So the arrows are actually going to allow you to select if you wanted to move stations, change radio stations. Maybe you wanted to change tracks, as this vehicle is loaded with a CD player. So those are the arrows that will allow you to select. Then you have the volume toggle, which you can use up and down. Source, which allows you to select different audio sources. So if you notice on here, we've got phone, maps, Subaru, media. If we go into media, here's where your different sources are: Bluetooth, USB, CDs. So if you did have a CD in and then wanted to switch back to radio, you could do that by hitting the source button. Info is going to scroll through different options or information in the display up top. Let me see if I can get a better view. So notice that there's a couple of different things that you can do. It'll notify you about what reverse braking is. You can look at information that shows you what your rake is or your pitch or how your vehicle is positioned. Water temperature, average speed. This here shows you the temperature outside, and this is actually something that comes from SiriusXM TravelLink, which you'll have linked with this vehicle that is maps enabled for 3 full years. If you do not have maps on your vehicle, you'll notice that this function will go away after 4 months with your SiriusXM radio subscription. Then down below that, you've got your Bluetooth hands-free link, your pickup button, and your hang-up button. So this is the stuff that you use for making and taking phone calls. Underneath that, there's little paddles. You notice there's an arrow going up and an arrow going down, and then an I/set. So if you notice the screen in between your tachometer and speedometer, if I hit the arrow up, it scrolls up through a menu of options. This shows you how long this car has idled for and how much it's saved on fuel, the speed that we're going, a digital speedometer. This will show you how long we've been in the car, how long the car has been started, and how far we've gone, average miles per gallon, and so on. So a couple of different things between the tachometer and speedometer that would help you. Once I start going up to speed, so about 30 miles an hour, I'm going to start to see a readout on each of the individual tires. So this is helpful if you start to notice that you're losing tire pressure. You can start to look at what those tire pressures are, and it'll give it to you in real time as you drive. So there's a little information. I typically like to keep it on the digital speedometer. That brings us to the right side spoke. Here is how you turn on your cruise control. And notice it changes the gauges. You see a little information of the vehicle. Notice how I turn on my brakes. It says --MPH. That's what your average speed or your max speed is going to be when you set it. And then if I use the buttons here, up or down, I can elect to change in our adaptive cruise control how far we are from the lead vehicle. So the car, once we set our cruise control with the toggle, so I'd pull down on the toggle to set, the car would set itself, and then it would keep it at the max speed that I set. So let's say I set it at 60, and the person in front of us is going 55. We're going to slow down to 55 miles an hour and keep ourselves at this distance that we set from the lead vehicle. Now, at an example of 60 miles an hour, if we're at the closest distance, we're about 100 feet. If we're at the furthest distance, we're at about 200 feet. These are also things that you can see in your owner's manual. One other thing I wanted to show you right here is the lane keep assist and lane centering function. So lane keep assist uses the lane markings on the road. So eventually, once we start to drive, you would see these markings right here that show us, hey, I see lines on the road. I can actually see that. And those are usually picked up at 37 miles per hour. So you'll see those lines indicated between the tachometer and speedometer. What this button does is it uses the lane markings to try to keep you centered if you've elected to turn on the button. So there I've turned on the button. Obviously we're not going anywhere. So it just illuminated sort of gray lines, which is sort of hard to see because it's sunny. So if I tried to steer myself out of the lane, it would give me a little grief, a little tug in the steering wheel and try to pull us back in. If the vehicle, if you are using your adaptive cruise control, this button, this function here, is also going to use the data from the vehicle in front of you to try to keep you centered. So it doesn't just use the lane markings, it also uses the vehicle.